are some of the paradoxical questions or topics we always get asked?
Well, do you think guys should lower their standards? Right? So if a dude is basically, yeah, well, indeed. So if a guy is basically just not getting any action
in a dry spell, I think there is certain something to be said for lowering your standards. Yeah.
How low though? This is the thing.
Well, a lot of the guys that we teach, they have sexual shame. They haven't banged many women, so they need to actually be doing. They need to get involved with women to understand what sex is and what vulnerability is and what how to dominate in the bedroom and how to actually have sex. Right? So I'd say if your body count's over 100. You don't necessarily, and also the check please.
Sure.
I don't think you need to necessarily lower your standards if you're on a dry spell.
No.
I think you need to focus on the process of going out, meeting people, flirting, bantering, having fun, being unattached to outcome, and then the results will take care of themselves. And actually, I think after a certain point in time, like we talked about before, restraint and not banging anything on the pulse is actually a strength. So it depends what level of state you're in with learning game.
And then there's different levels of lowering your standards as well, isn't there? I mean, there's kind of, people talk about slump busters and things like this, and I mean, obviously there's slump busters. So you're in a slump and you're busting the slump.
They're not.
Yeah.
Look, we've all banged a fair share of walkers in our time. I mean, some of the creatures I banged.
I've got to say, my standards have always been. I mean, look, I'm not making any huge claims.
Have you never banged any absolute rotters?
Yeah, I have, but it was more actually when I was at uni and also drinking. So one advantage that I've had is
not sober doing it. Yeah,
is not sober. I've been less inclined to do it.
And the same with me actually. That is one of the flagships for being sober is actually your standards go up. Because you're that. You're seeing reality for what it is. And you're like, actually, really that clean.
I'm not making any. I'm not trying to make some huge claims here. I mean, obviously, I have a certain type. Not everyone's going to like. Not everyone's going to think every girl that I've been with is a supermodel or whatever, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, I do have a certain sort of type, and there's certain parameters, and in general, I've kept within that. So there have been opportunities that I probably just walked away from because I'm just like, well, I just can't be bothered. And to be honest, as you get older, for me that just increases. Like now, I'm happy to sit at home, pop a Xanax, bit of LBC, have a hand shandy.
But this is based on your viewpoint, having done this for a long time and banged a lot of women. So is this, if we're trying to give advice, the great unwashed, what's practical? Is it just situational dependent, or is there kind of a I think
it's somewhat situational dependent. I think if you are going for somebody who you are genuinely, you think she's just physically repulsive, and I'm just doing this purely to do the physical act, I think that's probably not a great thing to do because you're going to feel crap about it.
I think that's a great acid test, isn't it? The next day, when you wake up in bed with her, or even after the act itself, how do you feel? Because if you feel regret and guilt and shame, that's your body telling you that wasn't the right way.
Yeah. However, I also think there are quite a lot of women, and maybe the same goes for women and for men as well, who are sort of on the peripheral. Like, she might not be your perfect 10, but she's okay. She's cute. And maybe
some of the best sex I've ever had have been with sevens, where we just have this insane sexual connection.
Yeah.
And actually, the hottest ones I've had, often it's the old starfish routine.
Yeah.
So lie there like, oh, I'm beautiful, I need to do anything. It's terrible sex. Part of you feels satiated because it's really hot now. So you're kind of doing Darwin's kind of ticking off the fertility keys, but part of you is just like, I might as well. What we really want is we want a hot girl who's not necessarily a son of very good feminine energy and is clearly looks at you like a god. Basically, we want someone to look at us like they've just seen, sliced bread for the first time, fire being created. You want to look at a girl who worships you and is just like enamoured. Her eyes are bright, she's bushy tailed, she cannot believe she gets to bang you. That's when it feels best. Right, the hero, right? The absolute male ego to the max.
So basically,
be a celebrity. That's what
right, yeah. So basically, we're talking about extreme narcissism there, really.
It's the male ego. It needs to be satiated, right?
Yeah, I mean, and also women also find that attitude attractive. I mean, they've got to be attracted to you somewhat in the first place, otherwise they're not going to give a monkeys. But if they're somewhat attracted to you and you're exuding that energy, then I believe you can get very, very good results, much more than people think.
Exuding the energy of...
Well, being somebody who thinks very highly of themselves.
Basically, you've got to act as if you've got a great texting advice came from Chateau Heartese, one of his articles. He goes, look, the only rule you need to know for texting is, imagine you're lying in bed with 5 models, and text every girl from that person. You know, how would you act? You wouldn't give a fuck. You'd say like, half the time you wouldn't reply, sometimes it'd be one-way answers, sometimes, and it insinuates hierarchy.
And women
are hypergamous. They're operating from evolutionary principles. They have to see you as better than them.
And women do this as well, though. This is why, you know, you'll get guys talking about, oh, you know, she didn't text for 2 days and then she texted 1 word or whatever. Why is that happening? Well, obviously...
She thinks she's high value.
Well, she thinks she's high value and she's probably juggling other options. She's probably juggling other, arguably better options. And then she's like, oh, okay, I'll give this chump, you know, a go.
Well, and also the point of the female realm is hibernation.
Yeah.
So she wants to keep orbiters around that she has no intention of fucking.
Well, the bloke on... I did a live stream yesterday, and a bloke asked a question. He said, "So how come I asked a girl out and she rejected me, but she still keeps messaging? What's that about?"
Validation.
Exactly. I said it's about attention. She wants it. She's enjoying the attention, and probably furthermore, there might be a small element of sadism because it's like I fuck this guy over, and he still wants me. And he can't have me, but I'm just going to rub his face in it. And I said, well, why are you even engaging with her? Like, if she said no, just, you know, block her, or don't, you know, you don't have to block her, but just don't engage in further conversation.
We are hairless apes, and women are ruthless. And if a woman thinks she can, you're a weak man emotionally, and you don't have emotional strength, which is arguably the most attractive thing for a woman to see. She wants to see a rock, and she wants to see you unmoved. If a woman knows she's better than you, or you're a weak man and she can take advantage of you, she will absolutely terrorise you. And I've seen it. I've experienced it when I've been in low moments all over, and just feeling like a bit of a victim, and women pick up on that. I just get, you know, they start being rude. You have to walk away from the situation, and it's because they sense a weakness in you. So you have to project strength. You know, not physical strength, internal strength.
And once disrespect starts to come into the equation, you're really fucked.
You have to. So this the you know, one of the coaches we work with, a good friend of mine, and you know him quite well, won't name names, but he's been in a relationship now for 3 years, and he has this constant battle because he doesn't understand, because it's hard, how to play it, because his woman is a fiery Latina and she's always kind of pushing the line with him, but he doesn't know when to be reactive and when to let things slide, because you can't be the reactive cunt that reacts to everything, and you have to lose a few battles to win the war, but it's like, where's the line? So this is again where Mr. Justin's model of pretty clear boundaries comes in. But again, if you're retrospectively trying to put this stuff in after you've had 2 years of putting up with nonsense, it's very, very hard to do.
Well, I mean, what about the classic sort of like, okay, the girls' night out. So she says, okay, my friends are in town, I want to go on a girls' night out. Now, you've got the sort of the hardcore manosphere, no girls' nights out, dump her, she's for the streets, all of that. But another way of looking at it might be, yeah, go. I don't give a fuck, because you're so confident in yourself that, you know, you don't expect her to do anything anyway. But even if she does, you don't care because you know that you're going to be okay ultimately.
I mean, where's your personal opinion?
I would probably not really want to, at this stage, want to be dating, or at any stage really want to be dating somebody who is going out to the club all the time. I don't think.
Is it a one-off or is it frequent? I mean, if we're talking about twice a weekend, then that's alarm bells already.
That's too much. That would be too much for me.
I think if you're too lackadaisical with it as well, women will take advantage, because there's a great story Robert Greene wrote about Roman Emperor, where he didn't give a monkey's about what his wife was up to, and she actually sat in the brothel and banging all of the high society men because he refused to ever react. Right. And he'd just sit there eating dinner completely like non-reactive, and she wanted pushback. So it's case by case, and you have to just think, right, is she looking for pushback here? Because women want stability, she wants rules. If she feels she can take advantage of you,
then she will.
she will. Women will. It's just evolution. We take this so personally. It's just evolution. We're hella apes. Women will take advantage of male weakness.
And I've seen that, and I've experienced that.
And I have as well. I've been run rings around by women because I didn't stand up for myself.
I've experienced this.
I thought it was being alpha and not doing anything. But then she perceived that as, no, you're a weak man, so fuck you, I'm going to fucking screw you over.
Yeah. I've experienced this actually with both women and men in different ways. I think if people sense vulnerability, unfortunately, a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are going to try and exploit that.
Well, I've had this issue with people confusing kindness for niceness. Niceness is weak because it's reciprocal. Kindness is you're just a decent guy. So I would, for example, in Mexico City, always give this woman with no arms who's inspired me when I was in a dark place the equivalent of $100. You know, and I don't expect anything back from her. Well, it'd be interesting to get your insight. I mean, without being too personal about it. If you, what's an example of maybe men taking the piss because they thought you were being too nice when you were actually just being reasonable, but they conceive that to be okay. I'm going to ruffle his feathers. Or...
No, I'm talking going back a long way now. I'm talking about like more like at school and stuff like that, where if they sort of, I guess it's like the old Alcatraz situation as well, really. I mean, if you...
What's the Alcatraz?
Well, if you show weakness, then people are going to pick up on that, and you're likely to become a target, unfortunately.
Well, one of the best videos I ever saw from a channel called Far From Average was 15 years a game in 10 minutes, and he talks about, basically it comes down to respect. And you treat your life like if you'd entered a prison, you would not let people get, you've got to stamp out stuff immediately. People have to hear you hiss.
But the counterpoint to that is, can that sound too reactive?
Well, it depends. I mean, practically, let's think of an example.
Well, what if, again, length of relationship and shit like that, maybe that comes into it as well. If you've been seeing a girl, if you've been dating a girl for like 2 weeks, and then she's like, oh, I go to the club on Friday.
Well, but let's keep it to, because I want to separate this, because this are two different strands, but they're both very important. Let's think of a male example. Have you had one in the last even 5 or 10 years where you think, in retrospect, when you go back to your room, fuck, actually, I should have, not from a non-ego point of view, because this is the other nuance as well. If we react from ego, often that's wrong. It's actually better to, in the moment, take a back step and not do something, unless someone's trying to hit you, but maybe a verbal kind of comment. It's better almost sometimes not to react, unless you've got a witty comeback, which is good. And then dwell on it and be like, right, do I need to have a word with that person? So have you had a situation, you don't have to name names, but in the last, say, 5 years, where that
plenty with you. No, joking.
No, because, so, for example, one of our mutual friends, you're quite chilled about it, as am I, because you'll just get on with your own thing if one of us is running a bit late. But one of our mutual friends, who we're both know, who I now affectionately nicknamed Friar Tuck, which I'm not sure he likes, Paul Janker's friend, he is really anal about time. So if I'm late to anything, he'll really kick off, because he sees that as a sign. In his world, that's massive disrespect. And in my world, he's been late plenty of times, and I just don't know. He's really apologetic, but I'm like, oh man, it's fine. Because for me, it's not an issue. So there's nuances.
I mean, to answer the question, sadly, I probably aren't going to be able to answer because I'm not going to be able to remember. I'm trying to think of an example. There will certainly be examples. There have certainly been examples where somebody's done something and they kind of overstep the mark, and you think in that moment, fuck, I should have done something. I really should have done something.
But do you think there's a certain strength in holding yourself back? That's the other point. And then, because almost that James Bond, amuse mastery, unfuckwittable, emotionally resilient, he almost kind of smirks it off and doesn't react.
Yeah.
It's whether it's if you look part hurt and you're stuttering, that's where you're going to look weak. But if you just kind of like ignore it or brush it off, I'd say in some ways that's non-reactivity strength, and then you can assess it later and be like, right, do I need to actually have a word with it?
So I had it was actually a female, not a female I was just dating or anything like that, but it was a work situation, and I did have an issue with a female some years ago. And
the one you were dating?
No, I wasn't dating her at all. There was no sexual, none of that. But no, nothing like that. But we were working in the same place, and she obviously didn't like me. She had a bugbear against me. She was clearly undermining me. So we'd be in meetings and she'd say things that were clearly undermining me. you know, in front of other people and stuff like that. And I just kind of let it go. And in hindsight, I think that was the wrong thing to do. I think I should have taken her aside. And actually, there was also a guy actually at the same place who did some similar kind of stuff.
And what was the ratio of the work in your team of guy to girl?
Well, it sort of
mainly women or mainly men?
It sort of changed over the years. At the beginning, it was mainly men, then it became more women. Obviously, the dynamic with women is a bit different, but I think
that's actually way harder to navigate.
Yeah.
Because I had it when I was working my final corporate job. I was doing the YouTube stuff on the side. That got found out, and so it was really awkward because I'd walk into meetings and the company was 90% women. It was just like me and two guys, and they kind of ganged up on me, and I didn't know how to react because I kind of played the amused master of like, right, don't react. But things got really awkward, and then some people would start saying snide comments, women, and I didn't know how to play that. I just had no idea, because you don't want to start offending people because the bosses will feel you. So it's like, right, and then eventually I just quit. Right, I've got to quit here. There's no way forward.
It would have been very difficult because obviously as time went on, you know, the world was becoming more woke, and even at that point.
And I felt really awkward going into work, which was a bad sign, and I just had to go.
But I certainly, there was one guy I certainly had, and sometimes I got on with him, but sometimes he would just do things and take the piss. And there were definitely occasions.
Is it to testing you, or is it because he didn't like you? Or?
I think he was a bit. I think he had some. He was a bit dark try, and I think he was just pushing buttons, seeing what he could get away with. I think the right thing to do really would have been to take him aside, sit down, and say, "Listen, man, this is, you know,"
and just call him on it.
And call him on it. And I didn't do that, and I do regret that.
Basically, I think I've sent you a video which is really good. We can post on the link below the YouTube video, but he essentially talks about, imagine you're in prison and you've got to stick up for yourself because you're going to literally be victimised. So throughout your everyday life, if things happen, imagine you're in prison that you wouldn't stand for in prison, don't stand for it in normal civilian life.
Yeah, and I think
it's not about getting some sock with a fucking and smashing something. It's about just taking them aside and being like, look, is, you know, a really good way of framing it, I heard one time, is what gave you the impression it was okay to speak to me like that? And that's a very diplomatic way of them putting it onto them in a calibrated, non-confrontational way for them to be like, oh, because it's really, if you say that in the moment, people find that really like, they don't know what to say, and they're like, oh shit, sorry, did I? Often they start apologising.
I think,
so that's
rather
being confrontational,
I think there's a way of doing it where you're not, it's not like, I'm not talking about coming to blows with somebody or like it becoming like, you know, some kind of big altercation, but I think sometimes things do need to be called out.
I think nipped in the bud early is good, and I think, again, in an evolutionary sense, we're not rewarded for being weak. Men need to be able to stand up for themselves, because you're not going to stand up for yourself, no one else will. And often, unfortunately, group mentality, you see a victim at school who got bullied, and what happens is then more people bully him. Because he doesn't have the minerals to stand up for himself.
Yeah, so. But what about just quickly with women? Because obviously the dynamic is slightly different.
So this is more subtle digs. It can be they make a comment in a group of people, and the comment is not on your side, and it's meant to undermine. You see a few girls eye coding each other, being like, "Oh, that was," and that's an interesting one because you pull her out in the moment, do you put her aside later? It's nuances, and this is really where the game is played. Is understanding social dynamics with a team, where you just know on a gut level that's okay, that's not okay. Where's the intent? What's the intent?
And it's this balance between being this complete killjoy who just every time she makes a joke, you're like, oh.
But this is where the misadjusting context is very good, because if you know what you stand for in yourself and other people, it doesn't matter who the girl is, it's filtered through that system.
Well, I had a girlfriend one time, and this is kind of embarrassing to talk about, but she was sort of joking. She was an English ball breaker type, you know, office type girl. And at one point, I can't remember what happened. She said, "Oh, you're a little bitch." She used the term "little bitch" to me.
In front of people?
I don't think even in front of people, and it was sort of a joke, you know. But I said to her, "Look," I said, that's disrespectful. I said, listen, you can't say that. That's not respectful. I don't appreciate you talking to me like that. Whatever. And she took it on board, and she didn't do it again.
She backed down. So that was exactly the right thing to do.
I think it was the right thing to do. Now, was I overreacting?
No.
I don't think
If
so.
someone calls you a little bitch, that's incredibly disrespectful.
I think it's incredibly, particularly for a woman that you guys are sort of entering into a relationship with. I mean, you've got to be, and as it was in the end, I got out of that relationship because I think, in my view, she was quite a toxic person, and, But I think there are things that you have to say. Now, ideally, if your frame is relatively strong, the woman should
They don't test you in the same way.
They don't test you in the same
So
way.
life challenges men and women at boys' hands. I think when we get caught up in not knowing where we're going, that's where women are more likely to test us.
So-
because they sense this lack of courage.
Well, I think also culturally, she again quite a ball breaker, quite a westernised person. I wouldn't say with my girlfriend now, she would say anything like that. I think she knows there are certain red lines where I would call her out, and she just doesn't do it.
You don't get brownie points for coming across as weak to women. You need to be able to call them out, but again, it's a nuance. You don't want to become this overreacting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm really interesting? I've been watching these hood prank videos where guys go up to people in the hood and they're kind of pranking them, but you see the reactivity of disrespect from they're always black guys to the guy, and it's actually quite eye-opening in how watered down we are in comparison to these dudes, because they are immediately, if they feel disrespected, they are in your face with a gun, and it's no. I always think we need to channel a bit more of that.
But is it a little bit to do with the old British, self-deprecating sense of humour? It's like, Troy's a bit of a wanker. Yeah, okay,
But that's right. Me calling you a cunt or you're calling me a cunt in a playful way is not disrespectful. It's that we often know the intent of what the person should do, and that's where you need to step in.
Yeah, I would agree. So going back to that specific instance, I'm not. I don't really know what her intent was, but I think to use that phrase to a guy that you're sleeping with and you want to be your boyfriend, I just think is a bridge too far. Right? I think it's
massively disrespectful.
So I don't know if she would probably say, "Oh, I was just fucking around, I was joking, whatever." Well, fine, but for me,
No, I think if you let that slide, that would have then.
Yeah.
You give someone an inch, they'll take a mile.
Exactly.
And it's just human nature. I think we despise weakness in people.
Yeah.
Emotional weakness, we despise it. Especially women.